You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. And all this week, we're doing our personal performance series with Dr. Jack Singer. And on today's show, the pivot point to persuasion, all about active listening, right here on The Biz.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me, day 5, you've survived this long, Dr. Jack Singer. Welcome, Doctor.
Thanks so much, Steve. It's been a great week.
It has been a great week,
Yeah.
and I have to say, I am a better person for it. I feel like I've had the couch for free. I feel that's pretty cool. And all our producers are watching this. I know the email that we get on this is going to be really supportive. People are trying to change. We're trying to change our habit. We want to win. We want to win, and we want to know what it's like to rack up some victories, or I like on our show today, we're not going to use the word victory, we're going to use the word triumph. Now, before I let Dr. Jack loose, I just want to remind everybody, remember, Dr. Jack has been on ESPN, Fox Sports, MSNBC, CNN, on the Glenn Beck Show, which I told you yesterday. I got to go watch those episodes. And of course, with a lot of our already starting to do conference speaking with MetLife, Northwestern, The Principal, Transamerica. So welcome to our world, Doctor.
Thank you.
And I am thrilled, especially as I said Monday's show, that much of what you're teaching, NFL players, Major League Baseball, tennis, stars, all these people, much of this is transferable to our business, which I never would have made the connect.
Yeah, it really is. And it's because it's transferable to any business where people are human, because I'm teaching people the exact same skills: how to understand your thinking, how to understand where it gets in your way, how to understand how to be mentally tough. All of these things are the same skills that I would teach athletes and teach to producers as well.
Well, when I think about everybody wants to rack up some closes or victories, or in our phrase, triumph, producer triumphs. And you've been talking about this. We were a little off air, and he says, these are all about producer triumphs, Steve. Walk us through your acronym on triumph and walk us through that, because I think it's a really good step-by-step process. And I don't know about my producers, but I really remember acronyms.
Yeah, and that's why I put it together like that. What we're really talking about is something known in the field of psychology and the area of communications called active listening. And this is critically important for you to rivet the attention of clients, of prospective clients. It's being an active listener. And not only does it rivet their attention because they recognize that you're genuinely listening to them, but it forces you to genuinely listen to them, because so many times we have so many things on our mind and so much that we want to say in trying to sell a client or trying to convince a client of something that we're really focused on what we're saying instead of what they're saying. That's the mistake. So this acronym I put together is a step method of forcing you to be an active listener. So the T in triumphs is treat your client or customer with respect and value. That's critically important. You have to genuinely care about what that customer or client cares about in order for you to be the best producer for that person. That's critically important. The next step is R, reflect. This is the most important part of the communication process, the listening process. You need to reflect back what you just heard this person say to you before you respond to it. Many times a person may ask a question, for example, the last producer I was with sold me a product that really wasn't good, so I'm not sure how I feel about buying another product. Instead of you defensively responding to that, you reflect what the person said and paraphrasing yourself, something like this: I understand why there may be some mistrust on your part of producers because of an experience you've had before. Now, as soon as you say that, you've locked in that person. They know you're listening to them. You're listening to their emotion and you're listening to their needs, instead of simply saying, oh no, you won't have that problem if you work with us. That's simply a defensive reaction. So it's critically important to always reflect back to the person what you heard them say before you respond, so you make sure you're on the same page. And that particular issue, by the way, you can use whether you're having a discussion with your spouse or with a business associate. It's something you can teach yourself to do that will serve you tremendously in any communication, is to make sure you're listening before you're responding.
I just thought of this phrase, the thoughtful pause.
The thoughtful pause is very important. Many people are afraid of a pause, by the way. They think that pausing makes them uncomfortable because it sounds like they don't know what to say. But pausing simply respects the person you're speaking to and lets them finish what they're saying, and then you reflect. So what I hear you saying is this: you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling worried, the future looks uncertain to you. As long as you understand what they're saying, you know then what to do, and they are riveted with attention.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that gives people a little more, I'd say, confidence that a pause is appropriate.
It is. The next one, I, is using I statements instead of you statements. You know, a you statement would be, you don't like this product, you don't see the value of this product. That makes the person defensive. An I statement is, I understand that you're confused because you don't have all of the information about this product. Or I understand you've never heard about this product before. You know, that kind of thing. So we want to use I statements instead of you statements. The I statements are much less threatening, and they help you explain to the person that you're on the same page.
Well, I think that's a huge issue because we're always pointing the finger, and that's the last thing we want to do.
Absolutely. Again, keep in mind that any of these can be useful in all of your interactions, not just in your business interactions. The you in Triumph says, understand the needs and goals of the client. You really need to understand what their needs and goals are. Is the client worrying about outliving his or her money? Are they worrying about protecting their family's wealth? Are they worried about making sure their children will be well taken care of, or their grandchildren? You need to understand the needs before you can really address the answers.
You know, we're taught this from day one, especially I grew up in the career system, to understand the needs and the psychological fears my client may even have. And I think we've lost our way on this, to be honest with you, Dr. Jack. We're just looking at data. That's all we do anymore. And I think what we're trying to do now is go to a whole new game. When we come back after the break, we're going to go through the rest of this acronym on Producer Triumph. You're listening to producers. Everybody that you're listening to is producers on this show are hearing this and they want to change. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Dr. Jack on Triumph.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Companies in our business are always touting service, products, and underwriting. And we do that too. But here's the difference. Now enter the world of the elite producer with a value package that cuts us out of the pack. A BD that approves social media marketing of non-FINRA products and doesn't take an override. With the best competition desk in the industry, and for our loyal producers, a true group health plan. No one offers that. Brokers Alliance does.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant, your host, and we're with, of course, Dr. Jack Singer, and we're talking about Producer Triumph. How can I rack up some victories and wins on this? We talked about treating, with respect. We've talked about reflecting. We've talked about the I statement rather than the accusative you statement. We've talked about understanding the needs of our client. Now we're talking about the letter M in Triumph. And again, I love acronyms because I actually will remember this.
Right.
So tell us about M.
Well, M is monitoring the tone and mannerisms of this client. Very important. Look at what the body language is telling you. Is this client leaning away from you? Is the client having facial expressions that look like they're rolling their eyes, or they're getting overwhelmed? Be able to be upfront with the client with what you see, because again, that will make that client trust you. Trust is so important. So for example, it would be okay to say, it sounds like you think I'm trying to force a product on you that you're not comfortable with today. Is that what you're thinking, Mr. Smith? Now, Mr. Smith is not used to someone being so upfront, but he is going to respect that, and that's critical. You want to make sure you're in touch with what that client is worried about or concerned about, so you then can address it. Or you may have to say, I don't have the answer to the question you asked, but it's a great question. Let me research it and I'll get back with you in 2 days.
I saw on Fox News, on Bill O'Reilly's show, he brings a gal in that all she does is manage body language and interprets it. And you're saying that's something we need to pick up on.
Absolutely. You need to pick up on it. There's even courses you can take in learning how to pick up on someone's personality, so you know what kind of performance pitch, if you want to call it that, they would be more amenable to. I mean, these are all psychological tools within the whole area of persuasion. So yes, it's important to look at body language. For example, as you're looking at me now, you can see me leaning towards Steve. Leaning towards Steve means I'm extremely comfortable with Steve. I like him. I never knew him until we did the shows, but I'm feeling really close to Steve. If I was sitting like this, that would mean something very different. I'm threatened by Steve. I can't wait to get out of here, you know, something like that. So we want to really look at body language. A little bit more. We want to look at body language. Now the P, because I want to make sure we get through all of these.
You bet.
The P is probe gently with respect. You can ask for understanding gently, you know, with respect. You don't want to say anything sarcastic, of course. You don't want to say anything offensive, but you want to probe gently. You could say, for example, if you could describe the insurance product that gave you peace of mind 10 years ago, what would that be? Because I want to see if we can replicate that peace of mind with the products we have. And then we have H, help your client to feel safe in the conversation. They need to feel safe. What does that mean? That means they're not feeling like a bulldozer is running them over and forcing them to do something that they're going to be sorry about on their drive home from the meeting.
Well, let's just stop there for a second. I mean, you know, the top producers in our business, and it's just across the board, we are type A, driver emotive closers. I don't want to run over my client. I don't want to be a bulldozer in his life. I want to be able to probe gently with respect, and I want to help him feel safe. But I'm wondering if I'm overwhelming him, maybe with I might have superior academic knowledge. I might have great communication skill sets. And I'm just bringing an intimidation rather than a more relaxed feeling for my client. How does type A, because a lot of our big producers are like this.
Well, I think first you have to understand, and the best way to understand is to ask the question, is what I'm saying, are you understanding it or am I losing you? Ask the question. Now, for example, you yourself, Steve, I'm going to give you your own little feedback session here.
Here we go.
Okay. Part of what many type A people do is they speak very rapidly. It comes from impatience. It's like, I know what I want to say and I want to get it out, or I know what you want to say, so hurry up because I have something to say back. That can lose people very quickly. So if I was advising you and you were asking me the question, tell me one thing I could start doing today that will make people listen to me more intently, I would say slow up your speaking. Take a deep breath, use the pauses we talked about before, slow down your speaking. Or at least ask the client, am I speaking too rapidly for you? Be frank with me, because sometimes I've been given that feedback. And you may learn a lot from that. So we want to really help them feel safe. We want them to feel that they can ask any question without it seeming silly. So you start off with that common phrase, no question is silly, please ask it. I will not make fun of any question. I may not even know the answer to some questions because it may be too sophisticated. I have to look it up.
Well, when we're trying to engage our client and we're walking through these steps, and these are pivot points. I mean, I'm thinking if I would not have thought of the word pivot, I think of basketball, right? I would have think of talking points, I get, but pivoting, right? Okay, I can't go that way, so I need to adjust and go this way.
Right. The metaphors that this gentleman uses are terrific because they really send home the point. That's exactly right. It's a pivot point because it changes the direction. So many producers have a habit of the way they talk to their clients, and yes, they're getting many clients to come on board, but they're not getting some of the clients to come on board. And there may be a simple pivot point that will make all the difference, which will keep the first group and add the second group.
Well, I know we all started out on sales tracks. I did, I have to confess. And I stayed there. It was kind of pedantic, monotone, you know, running down this rail. I'm not leaving my track. But once you understand what you have to say, I think sometimes that pivot issue, because it's not going as planned, and I don't know how many actual cases go as you plan.
That's right.
You know, in your conversation.
Right.
We're talking with Dr. Jack Singer. He's been on all the major networks talking about professional athletes. Those are his clients. Now he's coming into our world. If you didn't catch any of the shows all this week, I just exhort you to go back out, start on Monday's show, and walk through the whole thing and see if your practice isn't upping your game. You can watch this show and all our shows right here at www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to our homepage, click on it. It says On Demand. That's the Buzz on the Biz. We'll see you next week.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.